Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud.
David Lauer.
And this is the episode 11 review of Battle of the Exes 2. How would you describe this episode, Dave?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I feel like there's a lot to talk about. A lot of drama.
There's almost too much to talk about. There's just so much to talk about because, and speaking of which, like this whole episode was nothing but dialogue. People in rooms talking. This was either written by Aaron Sorkinson or Quentin Tarantino. I don't know. There was just so much. There was so much anger and aggression in what people were saying, and then there was also hypocrisy and petty arguments. And I did enjoy it when watching it, and now that I have to recite it, I'm just like, God damn it! There's just so much to talk about. So you try and get it started off.
I mean, when I first started watching the episode, I was like, there's Bananas talking about how Jordan and Sarah are just these big cowards to throw them into elimination. Sarah's just like, hey, it's a game. I'm trying to take out the best team that's our biggest competition. That seems like a fair thing that happened. But then Leroy and Naya and Bananas, Nani, they're just freaking out the entire time, starting all this drama. At first I was like, okay, when is this going to end? Why are they doing this? But then after about 5 to maybe like 8 minutes into the episode, it was just still drama going on. It was like, okay, it's here to stay. I don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal. It seems like that's just a logical play for that person to do. And they just kept rolling with the drama nonstop all the way through their trip to Norway.
It followed them into Norway, all the arguments and all that stuff. Even when they were supposed to tour, like Bananas is saying, oh man, we can't even enjoy the sights because they are making it such a miserable trip. I'm like, no, it's you guys. The group are trying to turn against Sarah and Jordan for playing a game that Bananas, you have cemented as the way of playing it. You have to look after number one, and that's yourself. And Bananas has said that plenty of times, and he's made moves over the years where, hey, it kind of screwed over someone. I mean, it's not against the rules at all. And Bananas has stuck to his alliances over the years, but mostly with his core group of guys. There's been plenty of people that's been screwed over in the process. If you're not Evan and you're not Kenny, or you're not Derek, you're going to get screwed.
I just feel like Bananas, him possibly being eliminated, like being thrown into it, he's just so upset and butthurt about that because he feels like he's this untouchable guy. You could have just been like, hey, Sarah threw us in because she thinks that it's her best chance to help her win. I understand that he doesn't like her because she put him in, but that doesn't mean he has to be so butthurt about it that he's just going to make everything where he's constantly like jawing with Jay and talking down to him as well. And stuff like that. And it's like, I get that you don't want to hang out with them. You don't have to be friends with them, but you don't need to start shit and keep talking, you know? Just stay over there, let them stay over there, and be mature adults about it. But, you know, they wanted to just play it up and just constantly keep harping on it.
There's Bananas going at her, and there's also Naya going at her as well. I don't know. I mean, it was just so repetitive. To me, after watching this all, and I sat down and I really thought about it, I was like, look, listen, there's lots of talking, and there's threats and slurs, and there's money at stake, and it ends in violence. I thought that this was the Quentin Tarantino episode. This is what I deem it as. This is where, like,
they edited out all the blood, though. I mean, it's not quite as gory as Reservoir Dogs.
Yes, exactly, man. And but it's so similar to a lot of Quentin Tarantino stuff. Reservoir Dogs, perfect. It begins in a cold opening where they're like, oh my God, we're bloody as shit. Like, the bank heist went wrong. And we're like, what? I didn't see this heist. So this episode opens up with Sarah and Jordan in a fucking hallway, and they're like, and it's kind of like Pulp Fiction too, where they're just like standing outside this doorway, like, I'm just saying, it's like you made. I don't remember the dialogue.
You've heard of a television pilot, right?
Yeah. The boss wants me to take care of his wife. You can take care of her? No. Take her out to dinner or some shit, man. So there's Jordan and Sarah. And they're talking, and they're like, listen, you made the best decision. And Sarah's like, cupping her face. She's like, yeah, but I know that people are going to hate me for this. You know, and Jordan's like, hey, you did what I could not, And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay by your side, and that's what he does. And Jordan really, he ended up being like a valiant man amongst all this assholery that was going on in the
Yeah, I
episode.
feel
Even
it's
though I
like
don't care for Jordan,
3 episodes ago he was a total twat and very childish, and now he's being very mature and being the opposite. And it's like, okay, no, it's like this. Yeah, he was very good. I liked the way he was acting. He was at least acting mature.
I mean, Naya's cranked up to 11. Banana's cranked up to like about a 9. Jordan's just like, he's smart enough to realize, listen, I gotta help clean up my reputation because I came off as an asshole. So I'm gonna dial myself down. Look at them. They're all attacking Sarah. Sarah's a sweetheart, America's sweetheart. If I just sit here and I'm the guy who's like, hey man, back off, or in his case, hey Naya, back off, he's gonna look good. And he does. Like, I'm just like, oh, Jordan, oh, you sweet son of a bitch. They open the door into the bedroom, right? And I feel like Naya is like the Samuel L. Jackson character. Like, look at this motherfucker.
Just randomly start screaming.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay. We're just already starting the scene off right at 11.
Total Pulp Fiction at this point. There's bananas going off at Sarah and Jordan, and then there's Naya. Naya pulls down Jordan's pants like, look at that. He's got a vagina. He don't got no dick or anything else like that. And look at Sarah, like she's fucking lazy and she's fat. You're gonna die at the final. You know, she's like getting in her face. Extremely threatening. Tension is at an all-time peak in the air. Nani's even going in there saying like, I'm gonna look like an idiot because I said once that I thought you were okay. You know, like Nani's got to get into it as well. That's what she does. She has to be in the fight. It's kind of like how everyone has to pull out their gun for the Mexican standoff in Quentin Tarantino movies, man.
Yeah,
I'm making this work. So they get a text and they're like, hey, open up the mini fridge. And they open it up. It glows golden.
It's like the briefcase.
It's like the briefcase. And they're plane tickets to Norway. They get to Norway. Banana's like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Or no, he says, yippity-doo, we're in Norway. But I can't be happy because I'm in elimination right now. When they get to the hotel or the room, he's like, wow, this is beautiful. And everyone's like, yeah, it is beautiful. And he's like, yeah, too bad I can't enjoy it.
Yep.
I'm like, fuck off, Bananas. Jesus Christ.
Which, I mean, I kind of understand that he feels that way. He knows he could be going home, so he's not happy.
The fact that you're in the final destination means you're that close to the final. If you don't want to be here, then
and he was eliminated a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
In the losers bracket because he had already been gone. He should be happy to be there, really.
So they're having a dinner, and Sarah is being Sarah, in my opinion. She's just like having wine, having dinner. She's like, oh, this wine. Oh, it's good. She revealed later how she is an art school teacher. I mean, she's an elementary school art teacher. So she's not like a teacher in like some college or anything. No, she teaches kids. So that means she's got to be up and like cheerleader, like, oh, you did such a great job. Look at everybody. Look at this. So anyway, she's sitting there and she's eating dinner, and she hasn't had a good meal in quite some time. Like, they're served shit in the challenge house. So now they're in Norway and they have a nice dinner. She's like, oh, this is great. True, she should have shut up because everyone hates her anyways. But Banana's like, oh shit, like, oh. He's mocking her at this point, like, oh, the wine is wonderful and the food is amazing, and it's like she's experiencing all this for the very first time. And he's like, oh, I'm full, and he gets up out of the table, right?
So how do you feel about that whole interaction?
You already know how Sarah is. Sarah's never changed her personality throughout seasons. This is her 8th season. Sarah's like this all the time. That's one of the reasons why I don't like her. It's because she's has a sunny disposition. And that's fine. I'm just saying it's like but she also talks about herself as if she's like, I'm going to win. I'm so good. But she doesn't win. You know what I'm saying? So this leading up to it.
So you don't like that she has a positive outlook and attitude.
Regardless of any outcome, like she's kind of blind to it. Yeah. Like she's lost in plenty of things where she was just like literally in the front of the camera. She's like, if I win, when I win. And then she would lose. And then she was in a final, and she wasn't a good chick. She was a mean chick. She was a mean chick to a bunch of girls on her own team, Either she scared them off, convinced them to drop out of the team, to quit the challenge, or wanted to throw a mission so that they can get rid of another girl. And Sarah ended up throwing up in the final and DQing, and she couldn't finish. That girl that she said was going to screw him over ended up finishing. So to me, Sarah is just like, I don't give a shit if you're bubbly as fuck.
To me, those things are unrelated. Like, she can still have a positive attitude regardless of how she performs in the challenge. She
No, that's
like,
fine.
and
Yeah.
I feel like everyone in this situation was being so negative. Bananas and Naya were being so negative that she had something that she liked, and she was just being like glowing and positive about it because she was really enjoying the wine and the food. And then I felt like Bananas was just looking for another reason to shit on her.
Oh, absolutely. What I'm saying is that all of a sudden Banana's like, oh, I hate her. Yeah, he's just looking for something to complain about. But that's just Sarah. Sarah's always been that person that's super like, look at everybody. Air. Wasn't Banana saying like how they were friends and shit? Like I thought we were friends. So if you guys were friends, you would know that that's how she acts regardless in the face of danger or anything. They took a tour. We already said that. Came back, start ripping on her again. But this time it's like in this little room, and it's just Jay and Jenna and Jordan and Sarah. They're sitting there, they're just kind of sitting there with their wine or whatever, just trying to have a nice evening, just conversation. Meanwhile, in the little bedroom, there's Bananas and Nani and Leroy and Naya. They're just crackling up, just making fun of Sarah some more, and it's just at a boiling point. It's kind of like Tarantino's style of filmmaking, where it's like, okay, where's this going? Tons of dialogue, very repetitive. What is this building up to? I know it's going to pay off somehow. So eventually, Jordan overhears all this stuff. He's like, Nine, you can't quit in challenges and then talk shit about someone. Flies out of the room and gets into his face like, oh, I can talk because I win domes, motherfucker. Total Samuel L. Jackson in his face, eating a burger.
Say what one more time? I dare you. I double dog dare you.
And I was like, no, I'm gonna win plenty of domes. I'm gonna make your life a living hell or something like that. And Jordan's like, you're so good at it. And then this is where it turns. And I was like, yeah, you're good at it too. Like making out with guys. And then Jordan, without missing a beat, is like, that's just on Tuesdays. And I was like,
just
yeah,
kind of taking a weird, awkward comment that she said, and then just having a joke back, and it wasn't even a good joke, but it was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna let that upset me.
Attacking him with slurs and shit of the anti-homosexual variety.
It just seemed out of nowhere, and it was just, I've never heard her talk like that. Obviously, they've never showed it on the show, at least to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, it's not like something you say. It's like, this challenge is happening right now in this environment, this day and age. It's not, because I know if you watch something from 20 years ago, you will see stuff that's like, oh, that's anti-gay, and you can tell. But people didn't really make a stink about it.
Jordan says it. He's like, you can't say that here. And when he says that, like, she's just like, I can say whatever the fuck I want. But what he was saying is like, here is in like now in the world. Like, it's just ridiculous. And she's like, I can say whatever I want, and I know what you are because of the way you were born or whatever. He's like, what, born like this? And he shows his hand. And it's like, dun, dun, dun. She's like, no, I'm talking about this. And spreads his legs and touches his dick. Like, I'm talking about this, motherfucker. You have a vagina. I saw it. I know it. You're so fucking weak. And I'm just like, you are a woman, Naya. And you're trying to say Jordan is weaker than you. And he has a vagina. Does that mean because he has a vagina, he's worse than you or weaker than you? Like, what are you saying, Naya? Like, she was just going crazy, saying like, you know that I know, and I know a lot. And he's like, well, if I'm gay, then that's a hate crime, dum dum. Like, great dialogue again by Tarantino. And then I thought that you were cool in the gay community. And she's like, oh, I am. They love me. There's nothing you could say to make them turn against me.
They won't turn against me.
Well, he says to the confessional, it's like, we can't touch you, so don't touch me at all, please. So, sexual assault, is that how you view it?
Well, I mean, in this day and age, it's all about equality. So if a guy was to do that to a girl, his legs were crossed, I believe, and then she, took his knee off so his legs were then spread. Then she took her finger and put it right in his groin and fucking started pointing and then poking down at it.
Yeah.
If a guy did that to a girl, that's sexual harassment. So her doing that to him, the same rules apply.
I know.
You can't do that.
I mean, if a guy touches a girl, he get kicked out. You know, and she can do anything a guy can do, but better. So she proved that. Naya's like, I can keep going. And Banana's like, keep going. Keep going. They're about to have a dinner, and then TJ shows up. Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf.
Here to take care of business. To clean up the mess.
It was a 40-minute drive, but he got there in 10.
And he's like, Naya, get your stuff. She grabs her stuff. Everyone's like, Naya, where are you going? She's like, I don't know. And then gets all her stuff. Her and TJ go. They walk down the hallway. Elevator shuts. Might as well have been the trunk shot in all of Tarantino's movies. Shuts. Goes to black. It didn't show up on this recording that I showed you, but MTV then posted like, if you are in the gay community and being harassed, or know someone in the community being assaulted by someone, contact this website.
I like that. That's cool.
So there was no mystery on that version that I watched when I watched it live, and you were just like, oh, did they take Naya?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. But yeah, when they put that thing like, if you're ever harassed, go to this website.
Yeah,
like,
if I would have,
you could end the violence, you know, that sort of thing. I was like, holy shit, this is serious.
Yeah, if I would have seen that would have been very obvious. Like, yeah, she's totally being disciplined in a very serious manner.
I felt like they should have put a little something like that after Zach was eliminated, because he was emotionally abusive. Maybe not to the gay community, but just to women in general.
That's true, like, yeah. If you feel like the battered woman society.
All right, so now back at that dinner table, Naya is gone. And everyone's sitting there in shock. And of course, Bananas takes this time to talk. And even though he's trying to express how he feels, I feel he's actually just kind of grating on everyone else. And he's like, I can't take any more of this shit, dude. I should be chilling right now. I shouldn't be worrying about this. You should be worried about this. Those two idiots around there should be worried. And he's referring to Jay and Jenna. And Jay was awesome. He was like, how am I an idiot? And Benaz's like, Jay, just shut up, all right? He was like, no, why should I shut up? Like, could you explain to me why I'm an idiot? And Benaz had nothing to say.
If you know what's good for you,
yeah,
just shut your mouth.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like, he just talks down to people. And he's just like, yeah, go put your head in the couch cushions for a while, for about 10 minutes.
Put a dunce cap on.
Yeah, but Jay stands up. He's like, no, I don't got to shut up or anything. Like, I'm going to keep talking if you're going to disrespect me. And Banana's like, okay, fine, I won't listen then. Oh, my God.
Because this Banana's starting more shit with other people. Like, he doesn't want to have a bad time there, but then he keeps acting in a way that ensures that he's going to have a bad time. Yeah. Just keeps picking fights. It's like, maybe if you stop picking fights, he might have a good time, man.
Yeah. We're almost to some action soon. But before we get there, Naya's taken out. Bananas does the thing with Jay. And then they go to the bar. And Nani does what she does best. Get drunk. Get wasted. Holds her nose. Slams down like a bunch of what looks like tequila.
We shouldn't be surprised because they're in Norway. Yeah, she is going into elimination. So you'd think Bananas is telling her, hey, just don't get really shit-faced or whatever.
Yeah, and Nani's like, I don't give a fuck.
Whatever, don't have shots. And she's like, shots.
It's kind of funny when they're going back to the hotel, Jay ties the two of them together, Jenna and Nani, and they're just like they almost like just walked right off the pier, like right into the water or something like that.
Yeah, there was like a building and like the edge of the driveway right there. Right off that is just down into the water. They're just stumbling right towards it. It's pretty scary. It looked like they were just gonna fall right in, but
Nani's drunk as shit. Passes out literally like just perfect, like
yeah, just laying on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm just more of a responsible drunk, but I can still make it to my bed before I pass out. And like when I'm super drunk, I still have that one goal, and that's to make myself a sandwich, take a piss, get a tall glass of water, and then lay in my bed. Come on. It doesn't matter how drunk I am.
And prepare to be miserable the entire next day. But she's got to do an elimination, man. That morning. Because now it's bright and early on the shores of Norway.
Yes, not Nova Scotia, but Norway.
And TJ's like, Naya is out of here. Leroy's devastated. And TJ says, but luckily for you, you've got another ex somewhere nearby.
But before that, they did a little teaser with the commercial where they're like, and you can't compete without a partner.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, are they going to screw Leroy over and just kick him out because he doesn't have a partner? Like he's not even getting a chance to try? That's what I thought at first. But then he's like, but luckily you have another ex.
I thought, he wouldn't have been screwed over. Really, I don't know.
Just because Nia did something inappropriate, she got kicked off the game, so he's getting screwed over if he doesn't get to compete.
Historically, especially this late in the game, it's very uncommon for someone to get a replacement partner, but usually it's like your partner did something, you gotta go. But I'll get into that more later on. So TJ points to the road, everyone looks, and who's coming down? But Teresa.
Gray shirt.
Yeah. Gray Totem Teresa, they called her. She's like, hey, Leroy, surprised to see me? And Leroy's like, I thought I sent you home. Which is correct. He sent her home, and now she's back. She's got to be jet lagged as fuck, right?
Yeah, like, think about the logistics, because Nia got sent home the night before, right?
Something like that,
Yeah, it was right, like, during dinner, before they go out to the bar, Nia's sitting at the table, they come and say, hey, you're out of the game. Screw you. So the producers had to immediately call up Teresa, be like, hey, you're coming back as a replacement. They made this decision super quick, got her on a plane to go all the way to Norway.
So now Leroy has a whole new partner, Teresa. And Banana says, like, you know what? Leroy's lucky as hell. He basically dumped a donkey for a racehorse. It's called Axe Battle, this final dome. It's going to be the first to 2 rounds, guys versus guys and girls versus girls. First goes Bananas and Leroy, and it's a pretty impressive fight.
I like that. When I was, at first, before it even started, I was like, okay, Leroy is bigger and stronger. Maybe not stronger, but he's taller and has longer arms, longer legs than Bananas, who's shorter. But I felt like Bananas could have an advantage being shorter. He could use more leverage. And you have shorter arms, so you could hold it closer to his body. And that'd be better. I thought Bananas might have a slight advantage. I didn't think he'd be at a disadvantage because he's shorter. That might work for him. It was very close.
It was really close at a particular point where they're at the very end of the bounds. And Bananas is on his, he's in a bad position. But he feels a piercing pain in his chest. But even with that, he's so close to ripping it from Leroy's hands. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Where Leroy only had one of the
4 knobs on the end.
And Bananas was nearly there, but then the horn goes off and they're like out of bounds. Restart.
It really freaking turned the tide there, because if there wasn't a boundary, right, like if the area was bigger and they didn't have to worry about that, it seemed like Bananas was going to get it.
I feel like they were out of bounds long, producers noticed it and they were just like, well, just keep it going for a little bit longer. And had Bananas finally been able to rip it out of his hands, then they probably would have counted it, but they were like, all right, it's taking too long, blow the horn. Or is it favoritism? And they're like, we want our boy Leroy to win. No?
I mean, just watching it the first time, it seemed like right as the majority, like they kind of scooted around the outside, but once he was firmly, seemed like his feet and his leg was out of bounds, then the whistle was blown. It seemed like a very accurate, at least just watching it the first time.
Even keel level.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking into things.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's any foul play involved, but perhaps.
The book's suppository.
It was a grassy knoll. There was a second shooter.
Speaking of the human body.
Okay.
The horn goes off. They're out of bounds. Bananas gets back up and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling like hell in my chest here. And little did I know it, that those are fractured ribs. So he's feeling pretty bad. So he grabs the X. He's got to try it anyways, ribs or not, right? Goes against Leroy. This time, Leroy makes quick work of Bananas the second time. He just rips it out of his hand. Horn goes off. Point for Leroy and Teresa.
This time Leroy was just aggressive with it, and it worked.
So Teresa versus Nani. Teresa brushes past Nani on her way to the X, and Nani's like, what? like it was awesome. This was such a like a like a hardcore but catty, total divas but less PG era, more like China style maybe. I don't know. I felt this was cool, like a cool physical match. These two women hated each other from the get go, and it's just like, wow, we're finally gonna see it. There was body slams.
Yeah.
Nani like comes
Like
off
get-go.
super aggressive immediately.
I was very impressed.
Like her movements are like a fucking pit bull, just like really quick, jerky movements. Teresa's just kind of hanging on, and she's saying, "I'm just waiting out. I know that she's gonna burn out quickly." And I'm like, "Oh shit, Teresa." You know, but Teresa always has a strategy.
Yeah.
Nani is pure fire and passion.
It seemed like Nani was just being so aggressive. I was like, oh, she's totally going to win it. Teresa was fine with her acting that way, and she was just, I got a good grip. I'm holding on to it and just let her tire herself out.
Yeah, but in the meantime, it was one of the coolest, dirtiest fights. Like Teresa knees Nani in the back, and then they're like, hey, she's hurting her or whatever. And then soon Teresa's like dropping her knee on Nani's chest, kicking her in the face. You know, just little like barely looks like a kick, but like when you're there,
It wasn't like super overly aggressive,
But when
but
you're
it was
there,
physical enough.
I'm sure it hurts.
Yeah. It was physical enough where it was like, yeah, it was intentional, but she wasn't crossing a line, I don't feel like.
It's like wrestler punches, you know, it's like this. It's still an impact, and you could still get a bruise, but they're just like little jabs
You
here and
hold
there,
back.
just to lessen them down, you know,
Yeah,
right?
you gotta hold back a little bit. You don't want to freaking kill the person. You don't want it to be seem dirty.
Well, they're gonna be like Teresa. That's like a DQ if she was just like bam right in the face, but she plays it as underhanded as possible. But they're both doing it. Nani's biting her leg.
Yeah, she's like, well, you're kicking me. It was like biting. That seems biting's always crossing a line. Just kick her back or something.
Yeah, and then again, this is me looking into things, but if you actually freeze frame or at least pay attention to the Teresa wrestling match, her jersey goes up, and then on her back, it looks like a little baggie just tied to her back. And I was like, what is that fucking weed? Like Teresa's like, and they're like, Teresa, you're up. You're like, oh shit. Oh. Okay.
Did you smuggle that narcotics into Norway?
I don't know, but I don't know what that was. I mean, was that her sandwich? Like, why was that little Ziploc baggie there?
So was it tucked into her pants?
No, it was like,
or taped to her back, or what?
It was, I don't know if it was taped to her back like John McClane or anything, but like, no, it was. I think it was part of her mic.
Yeah,
like all that stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. It has to be something with that.
Yeah, and then there was a little plastic bag in there. I was like, oh,
a little transponder or something.
What's in there? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Maybe they're just like, we don't want the transponder to get dirty in the sand.
Yeah, you don't want water damage.
Oh.
In case there's some unexpected vomiting in the wrestling match.
Oh, I wanted there to be some sort of weed gate where they're like, oh, Teresa was high as fuck. You know, performance enhancing drugs.
Maybe it's like there's an IV in her, and that little bag is filled with some magical liquid that is giving her extra power.
Whoa, like Venom for Bane?
Yes! She started talking like that at the end. It would have been epic.
This is my first win.
This is going to be very painful.
Yes. I'm grateful to be partnered with Leroy. We hooked up in Rivals too. Had a bad falling out, I'm afraid. So anyways, yeah, Teresa's actually tearing up. She's like, oh my god, I won. And I've never been in a final before. And she never has. Like, that was her curse. She would get eliminated right before the final, you know, that sort of thing. And speaking of the curse, holy shit, she's not more cursed than Bananas. Bananas has now been in 5 elimination rounds right before the final. Like, it's happened to him so many times. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't have to go into details, just believe me.
But him losing this one, how many of those other ones did he win and lose? What's his win-loss record?
Oh, just out of those 5 moments? I mean, he's been in more eliminations than that, but I'm just saying.
Just those 5 moments right before the final elimination.
This is his first loss.
Oh, so
he's always had to earn his way to the final, which you're just like, oh, you can't, you know, like, oh.
That's admirable, though.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the other thing. Bananas is an incredible asshole displayed in this episode. I don't want to come off as a Bananas hater, even though a lot of people could be like, "You are, man." Even I could be like, "Vince, you are."
Well, it's okay to be a
But
hater if you can explain your reasoning for it.
yeah, exactly. But I'm like, I can't take away the fact that he's an asshole, but he's an amazing competitor.
Yeah, he's always good in all his challenges.
Yeah. All right, so Bananas and Nani are gone, right? They're eliminated.
Yeah.
To me, I don't feel a thing anymore. I'm like, eliminations. What does that mean anymore? What does that even matter? Leroy took out Bananas and Nani, and then took them out again. Yet with another person you took out before, Teresa. It's just like, who cares anymore?
Leroy's the legend killer. Basically, he took out Bananas twice in one season. I mean, that's very impressive.
And he's taken out Bananas twice, so people are like, he's the shit, he's the new guy. Trust me, there's tons of Leroy love out there, and to me, I'm just like, I like him.
I like him. I like him like I like Bananas, where I think they're really good in the challenges and they put on good performances. But how they play the game and how they act around the other people, I don't care for that.
Yeah.
Like, at least with Bananas, I definitely don't like the way he's so immature and just picks fights with people. And with Leroy, he doesn't pick fights a whole lot, but I don't like how he's gotten this far in the game, where it seems like he's just kind of riding the coattails of others. Where first he was in an alliance with Bananas, then he went with Wes. Once Bananas was gone, he eliminated him. Then he goes back to Bananas.
The camera loves him. Like, I mean, I could watch Leroy. He's great. He's funny and stuff. He's got a great. Oh man, he was so good early in the episode where Naya is just going off. Where he tries to have this conversation with her. He brings her into a room. He's like, "You have to just calm down. Like, this has nothing to do with you lost it. And if you're going to continue on this behavior, you're going to lose it for us tomorrow or in the dome." But anyways, she's like, "Okay, anything else, Dad?" And he's like, "What?" I've never stepped on anyone this entire thing. I haven't tried to put my foot down. And he was right, but he should have. He really should have put, like, "Naya, calm down, please. You're going to do something." He thought that she was going to hit someone. But she did something else. She loved someone without permission.
Yeah, a little too touchy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely Leroy acting mature and being like, "Hey, you need to calm down."
In that scene, earlier in that scene, but later on in the episode, he should have fucking put a stop to that. Right before she came out and touched him, right then and there, when all four of them were lying there and Bananas like, keep going and shit, Leroy was still laughing and also making fun of Sarah, saying like, "Oh, look at how beautiful it is. Bam, shut up." Like he was doing that sort of shit. He was saying those jokes. Yeah, he should have stood up. And who knows, maybe Bananas was like, "Nah, keep going, because if you're kicked out, Nani and I would get a free ride to the finals."
Yeah, I wanted more reaction shots of Bananas that entire time.
Yeah.
I remember him during the one freak out where he's got his fist in his mouth and he's like, "Oh."
Oh, the guy's an instigator. Like he really, if he's not doing something, he's making sure people are getting in an argument.
Fueling the flames, and then he steps back and watches the fire burn.
Yeah, that's his thing. Like, people go out to the bars, it's usually him encouraging people to do shots all the time. That's part of what he does for a living. Like, outside of being a champion, a lot of these people get jobs as just being party promoters. They show up. They're like, "Hey, show up at the pickle." They're like, "Bananas."
Yeah, they'll pay him $1,000 to come out to the bar,
pour people shots and shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what he does.
It's an excuse to get more people in the door.
It's funny that he's saying, "Nani, don't drink," even though I encourage people to do this for a living. But then it's not too ludicrous that Nani gets completely drunk, but yet puts in a great performance in a dome the very next morning. Because these people are pro at doing challenges and drinking at the same time.
Yep.
Fucking.
And fucking.
Because Leroy's got another ex. Everyone's got one or more other exes in the house. It really doesn't matter. And that's when I say, like, eliminations just didn't matter to me this season. I was completely desensitized. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I've seen someone get shot in the head. 50 times later, I'm like, I don't care. What's a shot in the head? You know, like, show me something else. You know what I mean? That's a little graphic, but you understand what I'm saying then? How like people getting eliminated doesn't mean anything because only when Wes was. That's when I was like, oh my god, I really felt the pain. But now
because everyone had a chance. Once you got eliminated, you still had a second chance to get back into the game, and all those losing teams had that chance. Bananas had that chance, and he took advantage of it and got back into the game. But Wes doesn't get that chance to. It's I don't know that whole situation. I still didn't like the fact that they were able to do that. And if you're gonna do that, it should have happened with every team in the whole entire season, right to the end where you're gonna have the finale.
Yeah. Someone brought this up that one of the best things they could have done instead of taking Teresa as Nia's replacement for Leroy, why don't just say, Leroy, I'm sorry you're out, and bring in Wes and Teresa for their second chance? Then you would guarantee have a Wes and Teresa versus Bananas and Nani showdown. Because that's what people liked. People didn't really talk about Leroy and Bananas. They were like, look at the passion that was going on in the Nani and Teresa fight. If that was a Banana West fucking dome,
yeah, they feuded for so long. It would have been epic. And it would have been great.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have liked to see that, but at the same time, I still feel like it would have screwed over Leroy because just because your partner does something so shitty like that right at the end, that I guess if it happens in week 3 or something, then it's like, oh, that sucks. But to get that far, where if you get this win, you can go in, and then if he didn't have that opportunity, I don't feel like it would have been fair. They should have done a triple threat match in this one, right?
Oh, shit.
Bring back Wes and Teresa as a team, have Leroy and then a mystery partner. Let everyone throw in that either Sarah or Jenna. Let one of those have to compete with Leroy. But if Leroy's team gets eliminated, that girl still gets to stay with her original partner, but then Leroy has to go home.
I'm pretty sure I would have fucking downed some sleeping pills if that would have happened. I'd be like, none of this makes any sense anymore. Because really, it's like, on top of eliminations meaning nothing anymore, the fact that we were treated to another to be continued and we've had 4 of them this season, it's like ever since episode 9 came about, it's just been one long episode.
Yeah,
like
it definitely seems
they
like
bleed together.
Yeah, these episodes, there's no real structure of like, hey, at the beginning of the episode, this is gonna happen, and we're gonna have this elimination or this challenge, and then this elimination at the end. Every episode, there's different structure to it. You never really know quite where they're gonna end. And this one, I thought it was gonna end right there once Bananas got eliminated, but then they did start to show kind of a preview to the next one, which I was fine with because there was no freaking way they're gonna get to all that final.
I guess we should address that a little bit. They get to the final, and TJ's like, there's a Norse mythology. Leroy summed it up perfectly. He's like, I did not hear whatever he said. All I heard was $250,000 and something to do with trolls. But I'm just ready to fucking win.
That seemed like a very Leroy thing to say, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, I have no idea what he was talking about either.
It usually doesn't matter. They just kind of dressing up the final presented in a different way. I mean, like, sometimes it does matter. Like in, I think it was Rivals 2, it was very Legend of the Hidden Temple, where like you got to retrieve 5 artifacts.
Ooh, Mayan artifacts.
Yeah. And then some are just straight up marathons. Just like run to this end and we'll cut your time. Then we'll fly you over here and you'll climb down here and then we'll cut your time. And they just did that, but like different partners. So it's all just different variations every time. This one was pretty straightforward. They were just like, a troll puts things in your way, like the bridge troll, where it's like, hey, I don't remember the mythology. What is it? Where it's like, you have to ask me a riddle or something like that.
Something that he can't solve.
Something like that, yeah. Or I'm gonna eat your goats. I don't remember what it was. But anyways, TJ basically shrugged all that off by saying basically what a final is. We asked you to do these insane things. We're trolling you, basically. Like, hey, eat all this gross shit in order to get a medallion so you could go and do some more horrible shit, like bike 10 miles. And in this case, they're going to start off in a helicopter, and the winners, the power couple, they get to decide basically who gets the head starts and shit. Each team is going to get a helicopter, and they're going to go to some body of water. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, we're not even gonna try.
Gerald Ford. I don't know what it's called.
Oh.
But
He goes Norwegian apparently.
And then they have to drop out of the helicopter, and Jordan Sayre's like, "We'll drop off first and start swimming." They have to swim to a beach. They grab the kayaks, which then they have to kayak for 10 miles to the next checkpoint. And they were like, "We're gonna drop out first and start swimming. Then Jay and Jenna. Then Leroy and Teresa." Right away, it's like, Leroy and Teresa, you guys are screwed because Leroy cannot swim. Is it fair that the power couple get so much control in the final? I've never heard that before. It's usually like, we're all in the final, you're all equal. But all of a sudden, Jordan and Sarah, they won previously, so now they get to decide who has the advantage in the final. That's pretty weird. That's unprecedented.
Well, to me, it comes down to how long are they gonna. What is the time spacing between when they get to jump from the helicopter?
Okay, the helicopter is at the designated drop point. Jordan and Sarah, they jump off, they start swimming, the helicopter leaves. As soon as Jordan and Sarah are far enough away where they're not going to get hit by Jay and Jenna will drop off. And then, so it's like, really...
It could be like a minute head start, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too much, I guess, in the
horrible.
overall scheme of things. I'm just saying it's never been heard of before, Dave. All right?
Yeah.
And it's not that big a deal either, so I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. But, I mean, well, we don't even get to view this part.
Nope.
They just get in the helicopter. They're like, "Hey, we're here." You know, Jenna's like, "I'm cold. I'd rather be in Panama." And Jen's like, "Oh, we're fucked."
Was that the first time we even talked about Jenna that entire episode? Other than like her kind of being drunk with Nani a little bit. Oh, Jenna, you add so much to the show.
I'll tell you this. Here we go. Perhaps Jenna is like, "I'm gonna get Nani drunk as fuck. That way, her and Bananas are knocked out." Because Bananas and Nani in a final, that would have been bad for everyone. They could have been the number one contender. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, we all know Bananas is deadly in a final, you know. And Leroy, he might not have given up himself, but he didn't finish his first final. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that like having Leroy versus Bananas, either guy, whoever made it to that final was going to be a favorite. Like as a physical person who can complete these challenges. So the fact that Leroy was able to stay and Bananas wasn't, I feel like Leroy is automatically like a number one contender to a legit, this guy is going to be a threat. Yeah. And like in Jay, everyone, you know, he's a rookie, and that's what everyone keeps saying about. They're like, we don't have to worry about him.
But, he was annoyed.
Yeah,
he was
he's done all right. You can't knock him.
He's never gotten last once. And who knows, maybe he won't get last this time. Maybe he's not going to get third. Maybe someone else, maybe they'll get second. I don't think they're going to take first whatsoever, but that'd be kind of cool if they're like, we still never got last.
He's the ultimate underdog. Everyone just overlooks him constantly.
And her.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's some merit to it, but, you know, if it's the tortoise versus the hare, if they're slow and steady, that's okay, as long as they don't fuck up. And that's what they've been able to do. They've always been consistent. They don't fuck up.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe that's what they'll need in this challenge.
Yeah, I mean, just never give up. I mean, that's some of the key to winning finals. Just don't fucking give up, because you don't know if the person ahead of you is nearly to the end and then they just cramp up or just like can't breathe anymore or get bit by a spider. You know, you never.
Yeah, damn coral getting bit by a spider. But yeah, so
then
also whoops. And then you have Jordan and Sarah. Like Sarah, if you remember back when she was trying to go up that mountain and she could barely climb that physical challenge really took it out of her and she couldn't compete with that. How is Sarah going to hold up in this? Like, to swim to the shore and then to do all this paddling that you see, or the paddling in the kayak 10 miles, and then you also see them like climbing up freaking side of a mountain. Is she going to be able to do that? I don't know.
Well, she talks a big game, but that's Sarah, man. That's her personality. If she was a wrestler, she would be like a cheerleader or something like that. Like, that's her gimmick. It doesn't matter whether she's going to win or lose. She's always going to be like, yeah, here we go. Yeah.
At least she's consistent. She's staying positive. I feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a cynical bastard. And it's cool that it's here. It's a ray of sunshine. It's a little daisy growing up out of the sidewalk cracks. So thank God she's here, I guess. Anyways.
Then you have Leroy and Teresa.
Yeah.
And if Leroy isn't good at swimming in a kayak, I mean, there's so much more of the challenge after that. Then he can struggle with that and still be able to make up for it.
200 yards, I think it is. Yeah, the water thing, it could hurt him. I mean, it will hurt them, but like, I mean, you never know. Yeah, they could probably make up on it on, say, like maybe they have to beast like this lifting weight challenge or something, and Leroy's gonna be able to do that, you know. So
yeah, and climb up the side of the mountain if Sarah can't do it, but Teresa and Leroy, they can gain an advantage there.
Yeah, and you know what? This is pretty exciting. I mean, at first I was like really fighting it. I was like, oh god, it's these three teams in the final. But then,
and it's a weird combination because Teresa and Leroy, they haven't been together all season until now. Somehow they're in the challenge, but it's, they kind of just stuck her in there out of nowhere. I wish Nia would have just been a nice, normal person and not made everything freaking weird by touching Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, it should be, I want to see Nia and Leroy there. Like, why the hell did she have to do this shit? I'm not really upset at the producers for kicking her off because I feel like it was deserved. I feel like she's just shouldn't have been so damn stupid because it kind of robbed us of a final where we could have seen what she would have been able to do.
Very true. But, at the end of the day, it's like Teresa really did earn it. I mean, well, Wes and Teresa. So at least half of that team has gotten to the final. At least half of that team got that second chance. But okay, so then the helicopters are like going over the mountains, and it's like a beautiful shot. I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I should be really swept up into this where I'm like, the final is here. It's time to enjoy it. Well, next week. I'll have to wait. And
it was a cool shot because it just reminded me of like something from Lord of the Rings where you're looking over Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So if eagles, you had helicopters.
Yeah, it was awesome. Another to be continued. But I don't know. I guess
every episode's always going to be to be continued, basically.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. It'd be funny if
it's just like, how annoying the cutoff is. And then this one, I felt like it was well placed, where I was okay with it. It wasn't like them wrestling over the freaking four corner metal thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, to be continued. That would have pissed me off if they would have done it right there.
That's true.
Well, we got to see the finish of that, and we got a little bit of a preview for what's next.
All I'm hearing right now is compromise. We're just like, at least the producers weren't that bad to us. I posted this comment somewhere. I don't remember where it was. But basically, the challenges have been divided into eras, right? 3 eras. So there's the Golden Age, where it was like Miz and Coral, Theo, all those guys. And that was from Battle of the Seasons, and before that, I guess, to Gauntlet 2. And then the second era is the JEK dynasty, the Johnny, Evan, Kenny dynasty, because they really were like the stars, and they completely ran entire seasons back to back with like great wins. Like they played such a great game and all this stuff, right? They were just so funny and all this shit. And if it wasn't about them, it was about people rising against them, like Wes, Evelyn, Nehemiah, I guess. But yeah, it's always been about those guys in some way, either with just one of them winning all the time, like Bananas. Bananas is part of that dynasty, and he's kind of kept it alive because he's won so many in recent years where you're like, they're still relevant. But now we're entering a new era, and it's called the Twist era, where now in Free Agents and Battle of the Exes 2, we're now like the beauty of strategizing who's gonna be the eliminations, the showdown, that didn't mean anything in Free Agents. It was all a matter of luck. They were like, we nominate this guy to go in, and then everyone else is going to just pick a random lottery card, and whoever has the crossbones has to go against that person. Cool? Absolutely. New? Absolutely. But, again, the staples of the challenges were like, we decide who goes against who, right? With Battle of the Exes, now they take away elimination results. They're just like, it doesn't matter if you were eliminated, you could come back. Bananas and Nani were eliminated twice before my very eyes. And I'm like, it means nothing. And Teresa comes back from the dead.
She was eliminated, and then she comes back.
Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy. This is the new era where it's just like producers are like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if we're running out of ideas like Rivals and X's. We're just recycling Rivals 2, X's 2. Now we're just gonna throw everything. We're gonna twist it up like fucking a Saw movie where Jigsaw's in control. And he's like, cast. It doesn't matter what you think.
You thought you
Nothing.
knew how the game was played,
Yeah,
but this
exactly.
is all
Exactly.
it's all temporary. We can switch it.
So this is the twist era, man, and I feel like this is here to stay. It's just gonna be like, you don't know shit, fans and challengers. We're Vince McMahon on full on roids. We're gonna be the heel. We're putting ourselves in the spotlight. I feel that way, man.
It's almost like Birdman, where the director is making his presence overly known. Where as good as the movie is, or as good as the challenge is, sometimes you're like, geez, these people in charge are kind of, making me. I'm not even paying attention to this great acting because I'm so focused on all this bizarre camera work and bizarre music where you're trying too hard. Just let it. It is what it is, and it's good for a reason. You don't need to freaking overproduce it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, so there's the golden age, JEK dynasty. When I say that, I really mean like those guys were the stars. Like they would literally outthink producers all the time. They would cut corners and win. And it's been revealed over the years that they would always be like, before the mission would start, this would be cut out in the actual challenge. But they were like, so can we do this? And producers like, I don't know. And they just talk about it. They're like, oh no, you can't do that. And they're like, okay, well if we do this, does that mean that still counts? They're like, yes, but and they would always outthink the producers. They would win so much. Like they were just superior competitors where they stole the show. It was just about them. And now the producers find themselves having to rely on them because like these new guys they don't impress. So they're like, put CT back in there, Bananas and Wes, because they hate each other. That's where the drama comes from. Now they're like, we can't rely on that. We have to be like, no one is safe. And that's how these new challengers are going to be from now on. Yeah. Who knows what's next, but it's going to be fucked up.
It's just them trying to manipulate ratings, them keeping the characters that they like, or the contestants they like back in the show.
Yeah. But then even then they're like, don't be too comfy because we could eliminate them at any moment. But they are clear favorites. And I've tried to plead my case on some blogs, some YouTube comments and stuff. So I'll just try and say it here. For some reason, people don't want to believe that maybe the producers have favorites. And to me, Leroy is a clear producer's favorite, challenger's favorite, and fan favorite. Like everyone loves Leroy, right? And I like him too. But he gets a replacement partner, right?
Uh-huh.
This is not the first time they've given him a replacement partner. It was his rookie season in Rivals 1, and his partner hits a dude. He's kicked out. And they're like, Leroy, you can't compete without a partner. And he's like, oh shit. But luckily for you, we have somebody from your season. And they bring in this guy named Mike. The thing was, they were actually best friends on their season.
They weren't rivals.
They weren't rivals at all. They were actually known for being the best of friends. And they were like, oh, that's weird. But he's not like a physical threat at all. He's mostly just very smart and witty and shit like that, So it is kind of a good, it's not that bad, So the show goes on. Leroy gets a replacement. That's in episode, in episode 1, he gets a replacement. Makes sense. It's early in the show. And why knock all the show off course when you have an odd number of competitors or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now Sarah, over the years, I've told you, she's had partners that have DQ'd or given up, thus she had to leave twice. Where was her replacements?
It's not really fair. You kind of have to have a rule about that, I feel like, a definitive rule. Like, if a partner gets... it should be equal every time. If someone's partner gets taken out of the show, there has to be a guideline. It's like, hey, you're going to get a partner no matter what, or you're going home no matter what.
Yeah. The replacement... This only happened again in Rivals 2. This chick named Cook, her partner had to leave for family issues. So she's like, oh shit, what the fuck's going to happen? But they bring in this chick, and that's her replacement. But again, that's like in episode 1 or episode 2. So early. No one has ever gotten a replacement partner so late in the game before, and Leroy's given it. Now, Would it have been shitty had Leroy had to leave? Of course.
Has somebody else gotten that far into the game, and then like when Sarah didn't get a secondary partner, was she pretty far into the game as well?
No, it was always been early in the games.
So we've never really had this play out before where it was this close to the final.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it wasn't bullshit that Leroy and Teresa could be partners. They had hooked up. Apparently, they had a relationship enough where they actually had a fight and a discussion or something, a falling out. I thought it was just a hookup, but either way.
Look, to me, it doesn't really matter how well their relationship fits the gimmick of that season.
Yeah.
Like, I can look past that.
Yeah.
To me, it's just you have a partner and you're in this challenge and you're trying to win it.
If they would have let Leroy leave, Bananas and Nani could have been in the final, and holy shit, do you think people would have been like, what the fuck?
Would have been more favoritism towards Bananas, probably. People would have felt that way.
And a huge backlash about the exile, especially.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe now people are like, oh, this exile thing didn't really work out, or maybe it did. I don't know. But either way, it didn't. I mean, no one in
Ultimately,
the exile,
pointless.
nobody in the exile are from the final,
All it did was bring Bananas back so that way he could help take down Wes.
Yeah.
They
a rematch of sorts, even though they didn't want them to literally rematch, which we've never seen since the beginning of their rivalry. They've never actually interacted in an elimination round. This is the last time. Producers, they could have pulled the trigger again. This is their third fucking strikeout, though, man. Remember when Bananas fractures his ribs?
Yeah.
And then he still gets into that fight with Leroy and he loses? He put a tweet up of his fractured ribs. There's like 2 of them, right?
Really?
Yeah. He posted up. He's like, this
Wow.
was from that dome. Come to find out, someone actually found that that's just a Google image lifted off of some sort of website.
That totally makes sense. I thought it was bullshit from the second he said he had a broken rib. I was thinking, oh, he's just being a pussy.
And I looked into it, and I found it out. I was like, oh shit, that's right. It's like a 58-year-old man's rib cage, by the way. This image that he took, I tweeted him that image, that link to that image. And it was mentioned in another podcast through that same guy and myself. I even confirmed it, so they were able to confirm it as well. But anyways,
wow,
I wish Bananas was a bigger star to actually take down. But this won't matter. No one's gonna care.
But it shows part of his character, him just being a liar.
But Bananas fans are always going to overlook that. They're just such a diehard, like, it doesn't matter, man. Wes is worse, and then they'll walk away. Like,
there's
what?
definitely the certain, there's that certain segment of hardcore fans where it doesn't matter what kind of logic you throw at them or reasoning, they're just going to love him regardless. But when he said that, like, oh, I have a broken rib, and it really hurt during that match, it just seemed like, okay, yeah, here's an excuse. He's trying to make up an excuse right now. And that was the same thing that he had said to Wes when Wes got hit in the head and felt like he had a concussion. He's like, oh, my neck hurts. He's laying on the ground. But then it was just like, oh, pussy, get up. He's just faking. But then that's exactly what Bananas did. He
posted a fake picture of a 56-year-old man's rib cage on his tweet.
Wow. He just went to Google image, broken ribs, scrolled to like page 6, and he's like, yeah, no one will go past page 5.
Is it gonna cause him to get like fucking fired from the challenge or impeached? No.
Like, no, it just tarnishes his reputation a little bit. But he has so much other stuff that can also tarnish his reputation. You just add it to the pile.
I wish I could submit it to like TMZ. I wish Bananas was a big enough star where it could be like, TMZ, please pay me for this information, so we could be like, hey, remember that asshole who tried to sue Entourage or did? Well, he's back, America, by being full of shit. Look at these ribs. They're not his. They're 56-year-old man, and Harvey would be drinking his little drink and making quips. I don't know. I mean, I was just like, why even post that, Bananas? Like, you could have said, oh, my ribs got hurt, and that would have been the end of it. People would have been like, that's an excuse.
Yeah,
but then
there's
if you post
HIPAA laws, there's confidentiality. Doctors can't talk about it, the nurses can't talk about it, and it's basically just Bananas' word. But then he had to try and add some evidence, and then the evidence was faulty.
I guess that's all I have to say about the episode.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the challenge or the final. It's gonna be awesome.
I am. I am a little weary because usually a challenge, these final challenges nowadays take up 2 episodes worth because they're just these huge sprawling epics
So we think
that are usually 2 days long. So I'm like, what does this mean?
you think there'll be 2 more episodes possibly?
No, I think it's going to be a super short final because you're going to have Jordan and Sarah versus Jay and Jenna and Leroy and Teresa. I don't. I'll just say this: I don't have a lot of faith in Leroy in a final. I really think it's
Really?
going to be Jordan and Sarah all the way, and I feel like
Sarah's gonna hold Jordan back.
she might, but I feel like in the end, Leroy has so many other things going against him because I've seen him in a final. He was third place the entire time. Sure, he was with Mike, the little smart friend of his replacement, but still, I don't know.
But in his one-on-one challenges and eliminations, he always does very good.
But
those are always like short, small tasks. This is a long endurance thing. So I haven't seen him in anything like this.
They're just like one mission after another. They're like 6 missions, and in between those, you got to run like a couple miles. I'm just hoping it's an entertaining watch.
I hate when you watch a Super Bowl and it's a blowout at the end, and halfway into the third quarter, it's over.
I'm in agreement with you. That's all I want. I just like, it doesn't matter who wins at this point. This has overall been an extremely odd season. Holy shit. I mean, on top of like, you haven't watched these episodes, but the episodes before that, they had, it was about these 2 cast members that have died recently. And that was very odd to like even watch. You're just like, oh, these guys are alive, but not.
So they were on the show, but then they died?
Yeah, they like
before. So this is
before the episodes were released.
Whoa.
Yeah, after filming, 2 of them passed away, and then they're released, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that.
So that was like watching The Dark Knight when you knew.
Yes, that's exactly.
When you knew the Joker was no longer with us.
Yeah. Same exact experience. So in closing, I am Vincent Cloud.
I'm David Lauer. We have 1 more episode left this season, right?
Yes.
All right.
Remember to subscribe.
Hit the like button.
Plus, you got 1 more episode to let me know what season we're covering next.
Yeah. What are you gonna? What is
yeah,
my sentence?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Come at me, bro. What do you want me to watch? I'll cover it, motherfucker.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something good. Pick something good.
There's some bad challenges out there, man. But I'll watch out for us.
All right. I'll see you next time. Adios, muchachos.